Ms. Toller,
Present.
Mr. Nielsen.
Present.
Okay, and let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
and
for
to
which
the
it
republic
stands, one
one
nation, under God,
under God,
liberty
indivisible,
and justice for all.
liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and let's have a moment of silence. If you haven't silenced your cell phones, please do so. Okay, item number 5, board member statements. Mr. Sinaceris?
Now, I just want to take a couple of seconds here to welcome our new superintendent, Dr. Lafitte. After an amazing year of a fun process of finding a new superintendent, we finally have one. So welcome. I'm going to look forward to working with you.
Thank you. I also just want to kind of remind everyone, we do have Ms. Stallard on teleconference, which means she can only hear if the microphone is on. So if you were up here presenting, or if you're here at the DS, please make sure to have your microphone on. Thank you. All right, moving on to item number 6, Dr. Lafitte, Superintendent's Report.
Good evening, Littleton Governing Board, staff, and community. It's a great opportunity here. I appreciate this time to be here and share some of what I've seen over the past week. And actually, I've been fortunate. I've been here in and out for about a month or so, visiting with various staff, students, community, through a variety of things. But to really get going, we ready with the slides? So July marks the official start of the 25-26 school year. That comes with the excitement of many new opportunities, including the opportunity that the board has given me, the community, and everyone to lead the district. With this being my first official board meeting, I want to express my appreciation and to everyone in the community for the warm welcome. It's been nothing but just graciousness, generosity, openness to everyone that I've encountered, so I really appreciate that. For some time now, as some of you who know me, I've had the opportunity to kind of witness Littleton from afar, and it's just been great, the things that I have seen and now get firsthand experience with. So I appreciate that. And now I look forward to the next few years to help support and lead Littleton Elementary School District into the future as we build towards tomorrow. So since our last board meeting, and one thing that's been great, Dr. Smith and I really had a great communication transitioning. So since our last board meeting, one thing that he was able to witness, and now I was able to see the end of it, is our summer school program. It concluded the 3rd week of June with students showing continued growth and new learning opportunities. A highlight of the learning growth is that every Move On with Reading student that took the test after summer school passed, so each of them is able to advance to the next grade level. So we are excited to hear that and see that. A special thank you also goes out to the Barrio Bookmobile for making a stop at summer school to share the love of reading and books with our students. And next slide, not only is the summertime a great opportunity to improve learning, but is also a chance for us for our maintenance crew to get into our buildings. And so I was able to tour the buildings with Mr. French and Dave, our facilities director, prior to Mr. French leaving, and I was able to see a lot of the work that was taking place as they were polishing floors, replacing carpet, countertops, just a lot of things that were taking place, painting and so on. So really, they were able to provide important renovations and improvements to ensure our schools continue to be the safest and cleanest in the West Valley. And for me, that's my level of competition. I want to say we are the best. Some of the highlights that are included is 28 classrooms at Collier Business Academy received new carpet, paint, window blinds, and repairs. Irrigation repairs were done at Tres Rios. Preschool classroom renovations took place. to accommodate our continued growth, and many more maintenance tasks were done. And we're looking forward to the rooms being ready and us seeing our new students, our students for the upcoming year, starting on July 28th. Then, as we start to move from our summer work into preparation for 25-26 school year, the moment I know we all have been waiting for is our new staff. They will be in the building on July 14th, so we get to welcome our new staff in for the first day of pre-service. And this is always a great opportunity for staff to learn about curriculum, district processes, as well as to ask questions. And I'm just like everyone else. I ask a lot of questions. Everyone can tell you I'm nonstop with that. So we look forward to that. Also, along with helping staff get prepared for the new year, we're also excited to collaborate with our community partners at Mercy House for our community resource fair taking place on Saturday, July 19th at Quinton STEM Academy. Families will have the opportunity to learn about community resources available to them, receive free uniforms and school supplies, as well as ask questions and get assistance from district staff. If there are any families out there, anyone listening, just know if you'd like to register for this great opportunity, go to our social media, please sign up, and also feel free to follow us on those pages. And then as I close my report, really I just want to thank the governing board for the opportunity to lead the Littleton School District, and I look forward to our working together to provide opportunities for students, staff, to excel in the work that matters most. With our continued dedication and passion, together we will build a better tomorrow. So that's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Lafitte. All right, moving on to Program Showcase. Ms. Garrison.
Madam President, Governing Board, tonight I am inviting Mr. Dan Budsman to the podium to share with you his experience from our recent trip to Mexico for the Olé experience. As you are aware, Querétaro is an amazing city in Mexico, rich in culture and history, food, and people. Thanks to the support of our governing board, we have been able to take advantage of a total immersion program where Spanish language classes are combined with cultural classes, activities, field trips, all while being hosted by a Mexican family while their reading, writing, and speaking and listening was put to the test. We have a long-standing partnership with Carlson and Affiliates, who are in the audience today. A little shout out from over there. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Budsman to tell us all about it.
Okay, we're on. Buenas noches, Littleton Governing Board, Dr. Lafitte y Comunidad de Littleton. Esta noche me emociona compartir con mis amigos la experiencia que tuvimos en Querétaro. Good evening, Littleton Governing Board, Dr. Lafitte, and Littleton community. This evening, I'm excited to share with you the experience we had in Querétaro. Not only did we immerse ourselves in the Spanish language, we learned about the culture and history that has shaped Mexico, explored the ancient pyramids of Teotihuacan, were treated like family from our homestay familias, and went on adventures with our amigos. The Olé trip was truly an experience that will leave a lifelong impact on each one of us while providing a different point of view of which each of us can utilize when working with many families within the Littleton community. The Olé trip, the trip took place from May 31st through June 14th in Querétaro, Mexico, with 8 Littleton staff, 7 teachers and 1 administrator, participating in this adult language immersion experience. So what is adult language immersion? As you can see on the slide, adult language immersion involves surrounding oneself with a new language and culture to facilitate rapid learning, often involving focus courses, homestays, and cultural activities, all of which we experienced in Querétaro. This method replicates how children naturally acquire language, maximizing exposure and meaningful application to expedite language understanding. Olé provided us with all of this and more, instilling within each of us a deeper understanding of what many of our non-English speaking students may experience each day in and outside of our classrooms. This new perspective is also a gift that you, the governing board, and the district has provided us as we take this valuable newfound knowledge into this upcoming school year. So why is it valuable? So first of all, it provides authentic exposure to Spanish, which is the second most spoken language in the district. 2, it allows teaching staff to learn educational Spanish to interact with families throughout the weeks that we were there. We had focus classes on learning about how to speak with families. We did role play of parent-teacher conferences. So we did a number of fun activities that actually were very applicable to when we came back. It improves our cultural understanding of families in the district. And staff learn what it's like to be a monolingual student. So on top of learning all this, within the 2 weeks, here are some highlights of what we were able to experience. So we lived with a Querétaro family, ate meals 3 times a day with them, very delicious meals, I will say. We had Spanish grammar classes, cultural history classes, and excursions where we went around the city and saw historical locations. We had conversational Spanish classes, like I mentioned. On one of the Saturdays, we visited Teotihuacan pyramids, which is just incredible. Explored the Querétaro markets, historical locations, and parks. We were able to have real-world experiences in which we would use the Spanish we were learning. And we learned about the educational system and visited Querétaro School, which was a highlight for many of our teaching staff that went. And as you can see in the pictures, they were able to interact directly with those students. It was just a really neat experience. As I mentioned, we had 8 staff members that ranged from kindergarten all the way to an 8th grade math teacher. Lexi is from Country Place. She's a 6th grade math teacher. Ruby from Freeman Fine Arts Academy, 2nd grade teacher. Jenny from Estrella Vista, 1st grade teacher. Deanne, who's in the audience tonight, is one of our reading intervention teachers. Sandra is a Estrella Vista 1st grade teacher. Laura, a Lake and Prep kindergarten teacher. Brendan, our 8th grade math teacher, and then myself. So, next slide, Jim. So instead of me talking all about our experience, let's actually take a glimpse in this little video that we have about the experience.
Ole, we are a school that we have been teaching Spanish to French people since more than 28 years. And also we create customized programs to different types of groups and students. It's more than language school. It's a community, it's a family.
Although I am fluent in Spanish, I learned so much more about their history, about their grammar, about their educational system, and it was all due thanks to the Littleton district, so thank you.
I was able to get more confidence in my Spanish speaking skills and learn about what it's like for our students who are monolinguals, but also get ideas and strategies on how to teach people who don't know our language how to teach.
It was beyond what I expected. Olay is an amazing program. They welcomed us with open arms. They have taught us so much. They have amazing, amazing teachers.
I think that it is the experiences that we can get with other people, like foreigners, for us to learn about their cultures and the ways they see the world, and for us to teach them a bit of our tradition, culture, history, and for them to experience it firsthand.
My experience in Querétaro Olay was amazing. I have just positive things about going to Olay. I learned a lot. Even though I speak Spanish, I would definitely recommend for teachers that speak Spanish to go.
I really do feel like it's going to make me more effective in the classroom, especially with my students that need help and aren't familiar completely with the English language.
Immerse yourself in an entirely new culture and country. It was amazing. I did love it. We explored museums, we took a day trip to see pyramids, we just learned so much about just the Querétaro way of life, and the people there are wonderful.
It was my second time in Olay, and the great thing is, from last year's experience to this year's, I've engaged in more learning about the history of the area as well as the content of my classes.
I always say that I hope you take a piece of Mexico in your heart, and that when you meet Mexican people or Hispanic people, you can remember your stay here with us and what you've learned, and you can share a little bit of what you learned with other of your fellow teachers that work with you.
All right, again, just want to thank a number of groups, Littleton Governing Board, for your support. Carlson, and it should say affiliates, my mistake on that one. The Olay staff, our homestay familias, LESD staff, LESD community, and our families. It's 2 weeks of being gone, and so obviously we want to make sure that they also know we appreciate everything they did while we were gone. So with that, I'll take any questions that any of you have.
Okay. I have a few questions. As someone who was an ESL student way back when, I know the experience of being a monolingual student in a classroom where people are speaking English. So I think this is an amazing program. My questions kind of stem from, I would love to see more of our staff participating in this. I know when I first got on the board, it felt like we were in the teens with the number of staff we were sending. So are we limiting the number of staff that are going, or is it just, I know last year I asked and it was anyone who signed up got to go. Are we limiting the number going? No. Okay. So then I guess my question is, why are more of our staff? Sorry, please.
President Soshnick, we always budget for 10 people to go.
Okay.
And this particular year, we only had 8 that were able to attend, and we had the signups, and there were a couple that had signed up and had family issues and dropped out. So we always budget for 10.
Right. And I think that's great. I'm just trying to think of like where we could make that 10 every time and have a wait list. So I guess my next question is, I know the end of the school year is hard, and this trip was right after the end of the school year, and I know I need a break. Can we maybe, I don't know, give them, find out from the staff, do they want a break before they go on this trip? Or is it we want to go right after school ends because then vacations and all the plans, I don't know. I just think this is an amazing program, and I wish we had more staff taking this opportunity.
President Soshnick, thank you for your questions. From the group last year, we asked, actually, and we worked with Susan, that we could have had the trip the week directly after school, which we did the year before, or we could give them a week. And the people that went the year before said, give us a week. Boarding the plane on the Saturday after we finish school is just a lot. And so we took the feedback, but we will take it from this group as well next year should we have this opportunity.
Can I add one thing on that? So one unique thing of myself going on this trip is being able to experience, and I have the video that we shared is just a sampling of everything I took. And so I am going to be working with Dr. Lafitte, the executive team and the administrative team, to create some materials that we can inform our staff on so that they gain as much understanding prior and as much promotional information to help to provide that, that glimpse of what they'd be able to experience. Because having gone on it, I agree with you. It's an amazing opportunity, and I want to make sure everyone knows about that because it does benefit us. That's the big takeaway is, in the end, we have so many families in our community that will be benefited by as many of our staff that can experience it.
Thank you. Mr. Siniceros?
Where does the funding source come from for this?
That I can't speak to that.
Member Siniceros, members of the governing board, that we use Title II funds to pay for this trip.
An amazing way to use Title II funds. Thank you for that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Busbin. Moving on to item number 8, call to the public. We do have a call to the public, so I have to read my little admonition here. In order to allow time for everyone to participate, comments should be limited to 3 minutes. No disparagement, name calling, personal attacks upon board members, staff, personnel, or other persons in attendance or absent will be permitted by individuals who address the board. In addition, questions or comments on matters that are currently under legal review will not be accepted. Citizens are directed to other governing board policies for deposition of legitimate complaints, including those involving personnel. So I'm going to invite Ms. Hillary McKillop to come up speaking about ICE and drug dogs.
Good evening, Superintendent and Governing Board. My name is Hillary McKillop. I would like to know what the district and schools will do if ICE shows up on campus. I think the district should be proactive in making a plan, and that the plan needs to be shared with parents. As I stated before, the Borderlands Initiative project will hold trainings for free, either in person or through Zoom. They will even come out to each campus and work directly with staff, and I am more than happy to organize and set that up. Additionally, Know Your Rights cards should be available in the front office of every school. I would also like to address the use of drug dogs searching students' belongings. I know we all want to keep kids safe. Also, I question whether the benefits truly outweigh the detrimental effects these searches can have. The Washington State ACLU states that studies have shown that dogs are only correct about 70% of the time, causing undue stress and embarrassment to students who are falsely accused of drug possession. I see that this costs $7,000 per year. With schools receiving less money from the federal government, is this truly a fiscally responsible way to spend money? I understand that the district asked 17 students to provide feedback. As one student said, they have to wait outside of their classroom in the heat or the cold, and it wastes valuable learning time. Even if the search only takes a few minutes, in theory, anyone who has ever had to organize or wrangle a group of kids knows that in reality, it's going to take much longer to get kids back on track and paying attention. Yes, the other 16 kids said it made them feel safer, but did you get the opinion of the hundreds of other students in our district? We currently have a president making racist comments that Latinos are criminals and drug dealers, and now we have drug-sniffing dogs coming onto our campus and searching our children's belongings. What does that say to our community? What message does that send to our kids? That we agree with him? Why have parents and all students not been given the opportunity to give feedback about drug dogs the way we were able to provide feedback with school uniforms? The community should decide whether or not we want this. And I feel that this issue highlights a larger problem within the district. There are district employees who do not live here, making decisions that directly impact our community. They can get in their cars and drive away, while we are left to deal with the consequences of their actions or inactions. For some of you, this may be a job, but for the rest of us, this is our life, our neighborhood, and our home. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 9, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Nielsen, is there a second?
I second the motion to approve the consent agenda. I just had a question. Well, first of all, on
Ms. Stallard, I'm gonna have you, you can't have a question with a second. So.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to question. I just wanted to say congratulations to RSLE on number E, section C.
Okay.
I read the document that came with the expensing, and her submission stood out among 130 proposals.
Okay. All right, so it was a comment. Thank
Sorry,
you.
comment, yes.
No, thank you, Ms. Stallard. Is there a second? Ms. Stallard?
A second.
She was a second. All right. All in favor of passing the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Consent agenda passes. All right, moving on to item number 10, Dr. Lafitte, public hearing of expenditure budget.
Madam President, we do need to move out of our normal meeting into a public hearing so that our, at this point, consultant can come up and communicate on our budget.
I'm moving us into a public hearing.
All right.
Thank you, Madam President, and members of the governing board, Dr. Lafitte, Littleton community. It's a pleasure to be here this evening, and we're going to be discussing the adopted expenditure budget for FY25-26. This is a public meeting per ASRS 15905, so this gives the community opportunity to provide input to the budget process or ask questions at the end of the meeting. Go ahead, Jim. Budget timeline. This is something that hopefully the governing board is familiar with, that we provided, that I would provide every time that we would go over a budget item. But this budget started in the spring of this year. Didn't actually end until June 27th when the legislature finally passed a budget and the governor signed that budget. With it being such a late timeline this year, it gives the district an opportunity to revise again in September, which is not on this list. Luckily, all the assumptions that we made in June for this budget were what was passed in the budget item, which I'll go over here in a minute. So the district has the opportunity to revise if you like. Not going to be necessary though. You will also have an opportunity in December and also May. As mentioned before, the legislature did adopt the state budget and the governor signed that budget June 27th. The budget included many of the items that we discussed in June, but some of the other items were pretty notable. This year's budget included an FY26 and 27 aggregate expenditure limit override, which is great for school districts, that we don't have to go into the month of April wondering if the legislature is going to override this and or take away those months worth of our funding. So it does give them some time to get this possibly on a November 26 ballot, which I'm thinking was the reason that they passed 2 years. They also continued funding for the school facilities building renewal grant at $200 million for this year. Unfortunately, this allocation has proven to be inadequate for the last couple of years, as the number of deferred projects from last year already exceeds that amount. Hopefully they can find some way to add a supplemental allocation to that program. That is a program that Littleton typically will rely on to fix some of the air conditioners or some of the deficiencies that we have around the campus. Legislature increased the base support level by 2%, which was statutorily required. This increase to the base support level means the base support level went from $5,013 to $5,113.26, an increase of $100.26 per weighted ADM. Legislature also increased the transportation base support level by 2%, increasing the support level per route mile from 295 to 301, and that's for routes less than a half mile to over 1 mile, and then an increase of 242 to 247 for anything greater than a mile. The only estimate the district must make at this point, or made at this point, was ADM growth. The district estimated ADM growth at 128 students, or 2.2%. This is in line with growth experienced from the district in prior fiscal years, slightly lower than demographer expectations due to potential ESA growth statewide. Arizona Department of Education and the Auditor General also made some changes to the forms that we talked about in June. This makes the forms look a little bit different. It pulls out and carry forward tabs on pages 1, 3, and 4. If you took a look at the forms and had questions about that, you'll notice that certain areas of the budget showing a decreased allocation this year. That is just because that is where we typically put the carry forward in the budgets prior, and so that will normalize in years in budgets going forward. Reviewing our M&O budget calculations on the next slide, Jim. The base support level and transportation revenue control limit are added together, which gives us a revenue control limit of $43,886,000. We add the M&O override of $6.56 million, which is an increase of $300,000 from the prior year's 100th day. We're currently estimating carry forward from last fiscal year of $7.8 million. This number is still a little bit fluid because we're in encumbrance period, and so the district has 2 months to pay its bills from last fiscal year, which will affect that number. There is a transfer to the Energy and Savings Fund of $199,000. That has been a typical transfer for us to pay for a performance contract we did with lighting a number of years ago. I believe there aren't too many years left on that, which will be, that $200,000 we'll be able to use to pay for additional salary increases or whatever we wish to pay for it out of maintenance and operations. What that does is it provides a general budget limit of just over $58 million, which is an increase of $2.24 million from last fiscal year. If we take a look at assessed valuation for the governing board for the district, you'll see on the right-hand side strong changes in assessed valuation all the way from 2017. Growth in the primary assessed value in 2022 was 12.38%, 10.84 in 23, and 14.67 in 24, which were the highest in that 10-year span. Growth last fiscal year continued to be strong at 9.6%. As a reminder to the board, annual growth on existing property is limited to 5% annually, which was Prop 117. However, growth from reclassification of property and construction is not limited. So that's where we're seeing the majority of this growth is reclassification of properties and construction within district boundaries. The next slide is a 10-year look back on tax rates. And so you will see using preliminary calculations, the district is estimating a tax rate for this fiscal year of 4.225, a decrease of 18.13 cents from last year. The decreased tax rate is due largely to the very strong growth in assessed valuation from the last slide. Truth in taxation statute deals only with amounts it levies in adjacent ways. It is funded on the primary tax rate and is calculated in that 18% decrease to the community. And it is authorized by the governing board. Littleton has set a levy for adjacent ways of $250,000 for this fiscal year. The notice was posted in the newspaper, and the hearing is taking place with the adopted budget this evening. Our publication for Truth in Taxation requires the district post a levy amount on a $100,000 home and a levy without. So a levy without the levy, the rate would be $0. With the levy on a $100,000 home, the rate would be $5.15, and that's a annual cost. At this point, I'd be happy to answer any questions from the board or the community since it is a public hearing.
Mr. Nielsen?
Thank you, Mr. French. Just have one question again to get straight in my mind. The aggregate base levels are normally set in April for the budget.
I'm sorry, I missed that question.
The aggregate, is it the aggregate base
Aggregate
level?
expenditure limit
Yeah,
is
expenditure
typically reviewed by the legislature in April, and that is a statutory requirement that says we cannot go over a certain amount on education funding. They have until April to override that amount.
So the question is it April past or is it April of 2026?
They have already passed it. They've already exempted us from this coming April and the coming April next year.
Of 2026. So we've got
26
free
and
coasting until I think you mentioned
Right,
an
April
election.
26 and April 27, they've already exempted
Oh,
school
okay.
districts from.
Thank you. I was just trying to get it clear in my mind of how far that goes out. That's all.
Mr. Sinceris?
Is this the time where we can thank Ryan for his work in our district?
I'm open.
We're good? Oh, no, I just wanted to say thank you, Ryan, so much. It's been amazing to work with you over the last 2 years. You've done amazing work in our district. You know, my personal baby was the solar panels, so good job on that, personally. And I think you'll do amazing in the next place you go to.
Appreciate it. It was a pleasure to be here.
You are always so clear and concise in your reports, and just so personable to not only the board, but also the community. I'm very, very sad, and I'm still holding out hope that something will change. But wherever you end up, I know you'll do very well.
I know Dr. Lafitte's going to get somebody in here that's going to be just as good. So, any other questions?
I don't think so. Thank you, Mr. French.
Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to move us back into our regular meeting and end the public hearing. Moving on to item number 11, adoption of expenditure budget for fiscal year 25-26. Dr. Lafitte.
So the administration would recommend the adoption of the expenditure budget for the fiscal year 25-26.
Is there a motion?
I motion,
Rachel?
Go ahead, Rachel, sorry.
that's okay, you go ahead.
No, go ahead. There's a delay on this.
I move the governing board adopt the adjacent ways levy and the expenditure budget for fiscal year 2025, 2026, and the authorization of expenditures in the M&O section in excess of any subsection, provided all expenditures do not exceed the total budget.
Member Barnett, is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Sinisteros. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Budget is adopted. All right, moving on to item number 12. First reading of policy B, school governance. Dr. Lafitte.
Good evening again, governing board. So we have approximately 29. This is the remaining B policies. As previously mentioned by Dr. Smith, ASBA is going through a revamp of their policy manual. So we went through the A section, part of the B section. Now we're the final B section. Then upcoming will be the C section of that. So I'm going to go through these. And if you'd like me to, if you've read through them and if you just have specific questions, we can go that route, or I can go through each item and give you what the changes are going to be. They're going to range anywhere from deletion of items or compiling of items to put those together, but I'll kind of go through those unless you get to a point where you say, okay, that's a lot of them. We're good to go forward. So for item BAAEB, there are minor revisions were recommended per ASBA policy advisory to improve clarity and ensure consistent use of the term evaluation in policy BAA, which was reviewed for first reading in we just approved that one a few minutes ago, so that was the last reading was last month. Exhibit BAAEB outlines broad categories for the board self-evaluation. These categories currently defined in regulation BAAR will now be incorporated into the new exhibit as the regulation is being deleted. ASBA model policy proposed categories offer greater flexibility, allowing alignment with the governing board's goals and any strategic plans.
Yes, sir.
I just got one
Nielsen?
question. Excuse me. I've just got one question, Dr. Fried. Back on the one you first put up there, it says in red there are yellow. Districts may choose either BAAEA or BAAEB. Is there what's the difference between the two?
Right, so we chose EB, and we looked at it just based on some of the previous work of the district, so.
Okay,
yep.
thank you. That's all.
Okay. Next, go ahead.
I was just going to ask any other questions. It doesn't look like it, so continue.
Next item is BAAR. Exhibit BAAEB defines the broad categories for the board self-evaluation, currently defined in regulation BAAR. So the regulation will be deleted as the pillars of board governance were moved to regulation BAAEB. So I think that answers the question you may have had, Mr. Nielsen. Next item is BBBD. In policy BBBD, she was added to E as follows: the person holding the office ceasing to be a resident of the district for which he/she was elected. Other language is added as recommended in model policy to include the listing of requirements of removal per legal statute. And again, that's a reason for some of these changes as well, if we've seen statute changes. Next item, policy BCB. Policy BCB includes minor revisions to align with statute and the Uniform System of Financial Records, commonly known as USFR, as well as for clarity. Next item is policy BDA. Details language from policy BDB was revised and added to policy BDA. Subheadings were added for clarity, and the following phrase was added to the policy title: and board president duties. Next item, policy BED. Also included in this will be regulations BEDR and exhibits BEDEA and BEDEB. Meeting procedures. Details information from policies BEDD, BEDF, and BEDG was added to policy BED, and subheadings were added for clarity. Revisions to policy language are as follows. A through G is listed as an example under the subheading Rules of Order, with a highlighted portion for districts to enter its district-specific rules of order, formerly policy BEDD. The phrase including an electric roll call vote was added under the subheading Voting Materials, formerly policy BEDF, and in print or digital form was removed and replaced with or a recording under the subheading Minutes, formerly policy BEDG. Also, the word bylaws was removed from the titles of the policy, regulation, and exhibits. In addition, regulation BEDR was created from the language in former regulation BEDGR. Exhibit BEDEA was created from the language in former exhibit BEDGEA, and exhibit BEDEB was created from the language in former exhibit BEDGEB. No changes were made to the original language of the regulation, and both exhibits, with the exception of title from minutes to meeting procedures. Any questions as I'm trying to catch my breath here? Okay, next policy, BEDD, Rules of Order, deletion, and this goes to the one just read. Language in policy BEDD was moved to policy BED under the subheading Rules of Order. Therefore, policy BEDD was removed from the model manual. No changes were made to the A through G listing contained in policy BEDD and moved to BED. Next, policy BEDF, voting method deletion. The language in policy BEDF was moved to policy BED under subheading voting method. Therefore, policy BEDF was removed from the model manual. Only revision to original policy language was the addition of including an electronic roll call vote. Next item, policy BEDG, minutes deletion. Language in policy BEDG was moved to policy BED under the subheading minutes. Therefore, policy BEDG was removed from the model manual. Minor change in print or digital form in policy BEDG was removed in policy BED and replaced with or a recording. Next policy, BEDA, notification of board meetings. In policy BEDA, a notice was removed in the first paragraph In addition, a paragraph regarding prior written notice of executive session was added to align the current policy with the recommended ASBA model policy version. Next policy, BEDB. Subheadings and minor revisions were included in policy BEDB for clarity. In addition, language from policy BEDBA was revised and added to this policy under the subheading preparation and dissemination. Okay, next item, BEDBA. Language from policy BEDBA was revised and moved to policy BEDB. Therefore, policy BEDBA was removed from the model manual. Okay. All right. Policy BEDC, quorum deletion. Language in policy BEDC was moved to policy BBA. Therefore, policy BEDC was removed from the policy manual, the model manual. No changes were made to the original policy language. Next policy, policy BEDH and exhibit BEDH-E, public participation at board meetings. Language and subheadings were added to policy BEDH for clarity. In addition, and news media services was added to the titles of the policy and exhibit. Public participation and news media services at board meetings due to the addition of policy BEDI language in this policy. Finally, exhibit BEDH-E now provides an additional option to request to address board form pursuant to ASRS 38-431.01. If a governing board chooses to make an open call to the public during a public meeting, individuals may address the board on any issue within its jurisdiction. Therefore, this language is added to avoid restricting content. Additional language from statute was also revised at the end of this form to clarify the board's response after the call to public. Next item, policy BEDI, news media services at board meetings. Information from policy BEDI was moved to policy BEDH under the subheading news media services. Therefore, this policy is being removed from the model manual. Next policy, BGB and regulation BGBR, policy adoption, revision, and repeal. Policy BGB now includes language from policies BGC and BGF, as well as subheadings for clarity. Due to the additional information from these two policies, revision and repeal was added to the titles of the policy and newly created regulation, policy adoption, revision, and repeal. In addition, minor revisions to the policy were made regarding policy adoption to clarify the purpose for first and second readings and the adoption of the policies at a single meeting. Next policy, BGC and regulation BGCR, policy revision and review deletion. Language in policy BGC was moved to policy BGB under the subheading revision. Therefore, policy BGC was removed from the model manual. In addition, regulation BGCR was recodified as BGB R, therefore regulation BGC-R was removed from the model manual. Minor revisions were made to F and G in the regulation, now BGB-R, to clarify the policy adoption and revision process. Policy BGF, suspension, repeal of policy, that's a deletion. Language in policy BGF was moved to policy BGB under the subheading repeal suspension. Therefore, policy BGF was removed from the model manual. Policy BGD, board review of regulations. Policy BGD contains a minor revision in the final sentence regarding the board's review of regulations prior to publication. Additionally, the legal reference was removed as the statute does not specifically reference the board's review of regulations. Policy BGE and regulation BGE-R, policy communication feedback. Communication feedback was removed from the title of the policy and the regulation and replaced with manual, policy manual. There were no revisions to policy BGE or regulation BGE-R language. Policy BHC, board communications with staff members. Subheadings were added for clarity. Language from policy BHD was added under the subheading general public, and with staff members was removed from the title board communications. Policy BHD, board communications with the public. Language in policy BHD was moved to policy BHC under the subheading general public. Therefore, policy BHD was removed from the model manual. No changes were made to the original policy language. Policy BIA, new board member orientation handbook. Policy BIA contains minimal language revisions. In addition, subheadings have been added for clarity, and handbook has been removed from the title and replaced with "and resources." New board member orientation and resources. Policy BIBA, board member conferences, conventions, and workshops. Policy BIBA now contains information formerly in policy BIB, as well as subheadings for clarity. In addition, development opportunities has been added to the title, board member development opportunities, conferences, conventions, and workshops. Policy BIB, board member development opportunities, deletion. Information in policy BIB was moved to policy BIBA. Therefore, policy BIB was removed from the model manual. Policy BIE, board member insurance liability. Policy language includes minimal revisions. For example, the personal liability portion was relocated to the end of the policy under its own subheading, and wording regarding participation in group insurance plans was updated to align with Arizona Revised Statute 15-387. Policy BJ, School Board Legislative Program. Policy language includes a minor revision regarding the board's choice, may versus will, to participate in conferences that enhance understanding of legislative programs. Policy BK, School Board Memberships. Subheadings have been added for clarity, and information from policy BKA was added under the subheading ASBA delegates. In addition, an Arizona School Boards Association delegates was added to policy BK's title. school board memberships, and Arizona School Boards Association and delegates. And I believe our final one, policy BKA, liaison with school boards associations. Deletion, delegate information from policy BKA has been moved to policy BK under the subheading ASBA. Delegates, therefore policy BKA has been removed from the policy manual.
Thank you, Dr. Lafitte. I hope everyone was paying attention because there will be a quiz next meeting. I joke, but this is, we all know that policies are important, and knowing them and knowing what's in them is important as well. Moving on to item number 13, future agenda items. Before we start, I'd like to remind everyone that under the Arizona Open Meeting Law, this portion of the agenda is limited to briefly suggesting topics for future agenda. Discussion, debate, or direction to staff of matters not listed on the agenda is not permissible. We stay within these legal boundaries to ensure transparency and compliance with Arizona Statute ARS 38431.02H. Is there any future agenda items?
Yes. I know last meeting I requested to review policy BBBA to add the board member badges on there. It was in the consent. So I want to review it again the next meeting as a regular item for the 10,000th time. And I would also like to have on the next agenda a review of the drug dogs.
Okay. Any other agenda items? Okay. Dr. Lafitte.
Also, governing board, as I enter into the organization and I look at some of the ideas and plans that I have, I wanted to propose a couple of dates for board retreats to see if there's availability. I would like to focus on a few different topics, one on just our governance, also budget, and a few other items. So our August 26th and September 23rd. So let's start with August 26th. Is that a day that everyone is available?
What times are you thinking?
I'm comfortable with staying with our same time that we're using, since it's on it'll be on a Tuesday.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm comfortable with it, but we can bump it up. I'd rather bump it up so we can spend a little more time. That's Tuesday. It's a normal board day, or it's a it's a Tuesday.
Were we thinking like a like 6 p.m. if it was a little late? Do you think that's an option?
Preferably, I would like to start at 4 p.m. if that's possible, but I'm willing to go 6, and then if we need to adjust some things, we can do that. Just know that we'll probably be here at a minimum of 2 hours.
I feel like a 4 p.m. to like 8, I think.
I am available at 4 p.m.
I think we could start at 4 and then see what our discussions are happening. I know having board retreats on different topics, so we're trying to stay on one topic and like kind of almost like a study session. Like, let's talk about this one area.
Oh, just one area?
Well, I think that is what Dr. Lafitte was
Right. So,
do.
correct. So for the first one, for August 26th, what I'm proposing is board governance and leadership team. So us working together, our commitments together, what we plan on doing moving forward, how we want to lead the organization. And then the next date that I'll throw out there now, but I know we need to get through the 26th, would be September 23rd. And I want to do something on budget. So I want to do kind of a budget 101 type of retreat where we discuss budget so that there's in-depth understanding of how the budget functions, the different budgets that exist, what they can be used for, so that we can just increase all of our knowledge together.
Like the titles, like Title I, stuff like that, what the funds can be used for?
Yes, so the intent would be,
I don't know if we can go very in-depth on this.
No, well, yeah, just dates, so we'll stick to dates.
I think,
I'm
Okay,
fine.
what were you thinking?
Linda, are you available August 26th at 4?
Yes, I'm available.
Yeah, I'm okay with the 26th as long as it's the board and the superintendent. Present in the meeting.
That's my
It looks like we're all good for August 26th. At 4? Okay. Thank you.
And then the next date. The next date would be September 23rd.
Linda, are you available September 23rd at 4?
Yes, I am.
We'll make it work.
Okay, it looks like we're all available on the 23rd as well of September. All right, thank you. Well, it is time for this meeting to adjourn, so I will make a motion to adjourn at 7:06. Is there a second? Mr. Nielsen, all in favor of us adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you for including me in this meeting and making the accommodations. I have a 6
No,
a.m.
I'm just
flight,
reaching down.
so I think I'm going to bed.
Thank you for attending, Linda.
Goodbye, guys.
I'm sure we have things to sign.
I kind of want to, wait a second. Is this bribery?
Hey, thank you.
Of course. I won't.
Hey, thank you.
Oh, you get a chance to read your note. Read in the card.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm not the only one that has to sign these. You have to sign the bottom.
Yeah, I'm happy to sign this one. Although this is a lot of wrapping.
Okay, so I have a question. Because this is attested on December, but he wasn't our superintendent.
Well, I guess since we're redoing it, I guess that's like amending it. I'm assuming I'm assuming we have to put the date of when we first did it.
I have a question. Just we're dating it then, but he wasn't our superintendent then.
Right, I asked the same question.
I'm assuming because we passed it then, it probably has to stay that way since we're just updating it.
Yeah, I asked the department to ask legal.
This is the solar agreement. Solar agreement, yeah. Right? Yeah, this is the solar lease agreement for the next 30 years.